Good afternoon and welcome to the news at 1. There's been another horrific accident on the notorious Molopo Road north of Pretoria. 58 people were injured in a collision involving two buses this morning. 6 of the injured are in a critical condition.
The accident happened when a bus ran into the back of another and overturned. The injured have been taken to various hospitals in the Pretoria area. Police spokesperson Pilechi Sebola says both Patco buses were traveling from the former Kwandebele to Pretoria. Sebola says the police are investigating a case of reckless driving.
There will be serious tests that will be done on the two buses, and that will determine the cause of the accident.
A passenger, Lina Mtsweni, who was treated at Kalafong Hospital at Atteridgeville, west of Pretoria, says she realized something was wrong when the driver braked heavily.
It wasn't traveling at a high speed.
The 6 passengers who are in a critical condition include an 11-year-old girl. They are being treated at the Pretoria Academic Hospital and the Kalafong Hospital. Freddy Sipeng, SABC, Pretoria.
A suspected robber was shot dead and another was wounded after a coin security van was held up in Wynberg, north of Johannesburg, this morning. About 20 men armed with rifles, pistols and shotguns robbed the van of 22 cash boxes. Police followed 2 suspicious-looking cars and exchanged gunfire with the occupants. One was killed and another was wounded at Tsutsumani village near Alexandra. 2 suspects were arrested and another fled on foot. Police recovered 12 cash boxes, but the rest are still missing. They also recovered 2 rifles, a shotgun and 2 9mm pistols. 3 of the 5 men convicted of the Ndabezitha family massacre in Richmond more than 2 years ago have each been sentenced to 11 life terms in prison. Vulindlela Nkabinde, Mbongani Mjwara and Mashumi Dlamini were sentenced by Judge Ahmed Yapi in the Pietermaritzburg High Court today. He said they'd had their hands on the trigger and had been involved in planning the massacre. The other convicted men, Derek Nkabinde and Sipho Mtungwa, were sentenced to 15 years each in jail on 11 counts of murder and to another 5 years each for attempted murder. The massacre took place on the 23rd of January 1999, just hours after the murder of UDM leader Sifiso Nkabinde. The plundering of white-owned farms continued in the northwestern town of Chinhoyi in Zimbabwe this morning. The Commercial Farmers Union said there had been no let-up in the violence and looting. For the past week, self-styled war veterans have forced many white farmers and their families to flee. The CFU said up to 90 families had been evacuated from Chinhoyi. 23 farmers were remanded in prison last week on charges of inciting public violence. They allegedly attacked war veterans who had invaded the land of a fellow farmer. The death toll from an attack on a passenger train in Angola on Friday has risen to almost 100. More than 120 people were injured. Most of the survivors suffered severe burns to their arms and legs. Passengers say many of the victims who jumped off the train in an effort to escape fell into a fire under the carriages and were burnt to death. Angolan military sources say the train detonated a landmine placed on the rails by the rebel UNITA movement near the town of Dondo, about 150 kilometers southeast of the capital, Luanda. After the train had been brought to a halt, rebels attacked the carriages with small arms fire and hand grenades. Palestinians have embarked on a general strike to protest against Israel's occupation of Orient House, their headquarters in East Jerusalem. The strike's the first in the 10-month-old Palestinian uprising, the Intifada.
Shops and businesses in the West Bank and Gaza Strip are shuttered today as Palestinians stay at home. The strike follows a night of small arms fire in Hebron, where an 8-year-old Palestinian girl was killed and several people were wounded. Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon ordered the closure of Orient House last week after a suicide bomber had killed 15 Israelis in a restaurant in central Jerusalem. However, the step has failed to prevent further suicide attacks. Yesterday, a 20-year-old man identified as Mohammed Mahmoud Nasser detonated a bomb in a restaurant in Kiryat Modskin, south of Haifa, killing himself and injuring 15 people. The blast wrecked the restaurant, shattered windows over a wide area and damaged cars. The militant group Islamic Jihad has claimed responsibility for the attack. The Israeli government has blamed Palestinian President Yasser Arafat for the spate of suicide bombings. Israeli Cabinet Minister Danny Navi says Arafat is doing nothing to stop the terror.
Heavy storms have flooded central Mississippi in the United States. Parts of the state are waist-deep in water. The rain dumped by the storms forced some residents to find alternate modes of transportation. Some had to evacuate their homes. At its peak, the flooding in Richland closed a busy highway. Several cars were submerged. More rain is possible today, and it seems a church sign summed up the feelings of many residents. The Space Shuttle Discovery has ended a 2-day journey through the heavens to dock at the International Space Station. A new crew arrived to take over at the orbiting outpost.
The crew waiting to head back to Earth waited eagerly for Discovery to dock. Discovery was launched on Friday with tons of supplies for the Expedition 3 crew, including food, clothing, replacement parts and hardware for the 18 scientific studies they'll do in space. Half the space station has been completed, with final elements to be added over time. It was an extremely delicate operation to get Discovery to dock correctly, and Mission Control at NASA watched anxiously. At last, the crew from the shuttle could open the hatch.
Hey, how you doing? You ready for visitors? You're ready, my friend. Hey,
The Expedition 3 crew will return to Earth in early December, and they proved that even seasoned astronauts can behave like typical tourists.
The government plans to outlaw illegal squatting and land invasion. Parliament's expected to pass a law during the next session, which starts next week. The relevant act is to be strengthened to close any loopholes.
South Africa's population is over 40.5 million, according to the 1996 census. Over half the population live in the urban areas, equating to more than 5 million urban households and more than 3 million rural. In 1994, there was a backlog of 3 million housing units in the country. The government's target of 1 million houses in the first 5 years of democratic rule has been plagued with problems. These issues were recently discussed at the Cabinet's Lekgotla. While government accepts that landlessness and homelessness is a problem, it says any unlawful acts in terms of occupying land will not be tolerated, and law and order will be enforced.
Any person who instigates land invasion is prosecuted, regardless of whether they've benefited financially or not. Any invasion of land is made an offense. Persons who instigate land invasions and benefit financially will forfeit their rewards.
The government has also set aside 6.8 billion rand for infrastructure development nationwide. Much of the money will be used for rural development. Isaac Masamula, SABC, Pretoria.
On to market news, stocks have waded into positive territory buoyed by firmer metal and oil prices. But dealers say concerns over Zimbabwe could put pressure on the market later this week. The rand is at 8.26 rand to the dollar and at 11.74 rand to the pound. A euro will cost you 7.41 rand. The R150 bond is trading at a yield of 9.9%. The oil share index is up, and industrials have gained 43 points. Financials are also trading higher, but the gold index is slightly down. Gold is trading at $275.15 an ounce, while the dollar's worth 121.8 yen. Tokyo stocks ended in negative territory, as did Hong Kong stocks. And London's FTSE is slightly down. Coming up, Hestrie Klute jumps for gold, making her South Africa's first women world athletics champion. And 13's definitely not unlucky for endangered pandas. Don't go away.
When you've got a big day ahead, the last thing you need is constipation. All bloated and sluggish. Like a lot of people, I take Senecot. It's made from senna fruit. Just one dose at night works in harmony with your body for comfortable, predictable relief when you wake. Ready? You bet. Go on, enjoy your day. Senecot, relief for a brighter tomorrow.
Adrian and I have recently been telling you all about the lasting dignity plan from Clientele Life. But this product has been tried and tested and trusted by well over 100,000 policyholders during the last decade.
That's right, Ellen. And if you take a look at 10 years of television advertising for the lasting dignity plan, you'll see that this product really has stood the test of time.
If you have loved ones in your care, please pay careful attention. I want to tell you about the Lasting Dignity Plan from Clientele. It's more than a funeral plan. It will give your death lasting dignity. And it's yours by dialing 0800 123 600.
The Lasting Dignity Plan gives your family up to 100,000 rand in cash to pay for the funeral you deserve and to help them when you are gone. Can you afford the Lasting Dignity Plan?
Well, it starts from as little as R1 a day, depending on how much you choose your family to be paid.
The Lasting Dignity Plan is for men and women up to age 84 years. There's no medical examination. And because of an initial limited benefit period, you cannot be turned down. Your cover can last for the whole of your life, and your benefits will never decrease even as you grow older. All this from R1 a day. It's easy to see that the Lasting Dignity Plan has all the right pieces for you. You'd be hard-pressed to find a company that offers you more. That's why I urge you to call this toll-free number now. For immediate cover or more information, phone 0800 123 600 now.
Find out for yourself why people thank Clientele Life every day. Call this toll-free number now.
There's no risk, no obligation. Call 0800 123 600. It's a free call. The Lasting Dignity Plan from Clientele Life. It's your final gift of love. 0800 123 600. Call now.
Welcome back. The World Athletics Championships in Canada have ended on a high note for South Africa. The country can now boast 2 medals, which both came on the final day. Olympic high jump silver medalist Hestrie Kluter leaped her way to gold, and the South African men's 100 meters relay team caused an upset by taking the silver.
It was more than a glorious day for South Africa, as they stole the show on the last day of the championships. First up was Hestrie Kluter. Silver medalist in Sydney last year, Kluter had a point to prove that she was definitely the world's best high jumper. The tall South African cleared everything in her path to eventually jump a season's best jump of 2 meters. That was as high as she needed to go, as the rest of the field could not keep up with her. Kluter's victory is her first ever major international victory, but most of all, it was South Africa's only gold medal at these dual champs.
Yeah, I'm very happy, and I think it's true. Everybody's saying just leave the best for last, and that's why I'm bringing the gold back for South Africa and all the South Africans watching TV. My husband, it's very early in the morning. I really love you. I miss you a lot. And then to my coach, thanks for all the support. And last but not the least, thank for the good Lord who gave me this talent and helped me today.
But what really stole the hearts of many at the championships was our 4x100 meter relay team. Our heroic quartet went from no-hopers at the beginning of the championships to the future champions of the discipline at the end of their race. Starting their race in their now favorite lane, lane 8, the team of Morne Nagel, Corne Du Plessis, Leroy Newton and Matthew Quinn not only ran their quickest time ever, but blew the track away to come home second after the United States, leaving Trinidad and Tobago and Australia in the dust to fight it out for third spot.
I think everyone didn't expect except for us four. I mean, we went out there positive. We knew we had done enough to make the final. Changeovers went smooth. Some of us just didn't run as well as we could have. We went back, we focused, and we came out and we did the job.
After a disaster start to the games, day 10 and the final day of the championships brought happiness to South Africa. First was Hestrie Kluter winning gold in the women's high jump, then our 4x100 meter relay team taking silver in their event. Thabiso Sitole for SABC in Edmonton, Canada.
And finally, China's giant pandas have been rather busy. For a notoriously infertile and endangered species, they've proved to be rather successful at the mating game. The first of 13 pregnant pandas at a breeding center has just given birth to a cute little cub.
It's going to be pandemonium soon. 9 very pregnant black and white bears are about to deliver the next generation of giant pandas. And the first cute cub is so little and hairless, you could almost mistake him for, well, a mouse, really. The giant panda is an endangered species found only in China. This she-bear, bonding with her baby, is one of about only 1,000 left on Earth. The giant panda breeding center has been trying to help the notoriously infertile animals procreate, and with some success. 4 others from a nearby nature reserve are also pregnant, bringing the total number of procreating pandas to 13. And it's better than that. Officials are predicting that half of the bears will bear twins.
Hope you'll join us for headline news at 5 to 4. The weather's up next with Simon.
Very good afternoon to you, and we've got some rain expected later on this evening ahead of a cold front, and I often get emails asking me why the rain occurs ahead of the front, so let's have a look at that. This cold, dry air wedges in underneath moist air and it forces it up, and so you get this rainfall arriving usually about 50 to 100 kilometers ahead of the actual cold front, which is measured at the point on the surface there. Now, across the other side of the country, we're getting offshore flow along that east coast, and that's pushing the temperatures up today into the warm 20s at 27 in Durban, 26 up at Richards Bay, high or mid-20s rather through the rest of the Eastern Cape, and it's staying lovely and mild up through the high-veld, low 20s through Gauteng and the Free State, down into the low-veld temperatures, warm 26s at Paraboa, at Messina and at Ellisras. Across to the western half of the country, temperatures beginning to cool as a result of that cloud associated with the cold front, just 17 at Cape Town and at Springbok. Enjoy your afternoon.
The National Bureau for Missing Persons has just released the details of 5 new cases of missing persons.
11-year-old Nkosinathi Bongumusa Mkhize never returned home from school on the 17th of January. 14-year-old nurse Ramabu was last seen on the 4th of January at her house in Sunset View. Lisbeth Musia and her sister Lirato ran away from their home in Pretoria on the 14th of July last year. Both the girls are in their early teens. Mrs. Pretorius is looking for her 24-year-old husband, Daniel Jacobus Pretorius. He's been missing since the 15th of December last year.
Crime Stop is broadcast on SABC 3 from Monday to Thursday, so tune in again tomorrow.
Martha Stewart is America's most popular and also most successful homemaker. Her success includes a TV show and 3 magazines. Join us this afternoon at 5 o'clock when Larry will be looking at the self-driven woman's career using clips of previous interviews with her. That's Larry King Live later today at 5 o'clock. And now for more world news, here is CNN International.
Central and southern Chile seeing more in the way of rain and snow showers over the higher elevations, and of course some very strong winds across the south as well. Across the United States we've seen flooding rains, very heavy rain across the mid-Atlantic states, back across the Appalachians into Virginia and also down here in the southeast, and I think really that theme will be continuing with the heavy rains in this region as we head into Monday evening. Better weather though across the Midwest and back across the northern plains. Still those showery conditions in the southeast and mid-Atlantic by Tuesday evening. Out west, we'll look for more potential stormy weather, I think, across portions of Wyoming, Montana. The monsoonal flows increasing the risk of heavy downpours during the afternoon and evening across the Four Corners, and still very warm in the Pacific Northwest.
I first walked out on stage in the early 70s. I can tell you it wasn't easy. Theater can be brutal. You're exposed to the crowd. You either learn to overcome your fear or spend your life in the wings.
We have to make certain that the AOL member has access to their AOL account on whatever device they desire to go onto the internet with. We don't think, in all likelihood, that it's the only device that a consumer will use. In fact, when you look at the way that consumers are using the internet these days in Japan, it's both on the phone as well as on the PC, and they want to have the same account for both.
For an informed look at major news events, watch Inside with Jonathan Mack, weeknights on CNN.
Market update. Here's Todd Benjamin at the London Financial Desk. Todd?
Hello, and after a shaky start, Europe's main markets are now back in the black. Tech stocks are doing well on most markets. Let's get right to the numbers for you. In London, the FTSE is 0.5% higher. Energy stocks helping to lift that market on the back of firming crude prices. And advertising firm Cordian is up more than 7% despite painting a bleak outlook and announcing a nearly $15 million charge for an unspecified number of job cuts. Frankfurt's DAX is up 0.75%, or up 48 points. Commerzbank is gaining more than 2.5% on renewed takeover speculation. Moving on to Paris now, where the CAC is better than 1% higher, up 62 points. Advertising firm Publicis is adding 0.5% after reporting better than expected sales growth for the first half of the year. And in Switzerland, Zurich's SMI is 0.33% higher, up 25 points. In the currency market, the dollar has fallen to a 3-month low against the euro on continued fears over the U.S. economy, and the euro has hit a 4-month high against the British pound, but is relatively steady against the Japanese yen. Well, shares of pharmaceuticals group Bayer are 2% higher in Frankfurt. The company says it will present the first results of a strategic review within a few weeks. The review is prompted by the unexpected withdrawal of its key cholesterol-lowering drug Baycol last week. Bayer says that so far 52 deaths worldwide have been linked to the drug's active ingredient. It also said that 2 top pharmaceutical companies have expressed an interest in its drugs business and that it is no longer excluding a sale of the unit. Deutsche Telekom hitting yet another low. The stock fell to a 41-month low in early trading amid a row with Deutsche Bank. Germany's biggest bank placed 44 million telecom shares last Tuesday, only a day after it reiterated its buy recommendation for the stock. TT shares have recovered slightly and are now down 0.75%. That is a look at global financial markets. I'm Todd Benjamin in London. More world news in a moment. Stay with us.
Focus on the unusual, the out of the way, the unexpected. Let CNN Traveler take you off the beaten track. Journey through ancient towns, forgotten ruins, modern landscapes, travel news, in-depth, thought-provoking. Subscribe at cnntraveler.com to the CNN Traveler magazine in association with the Costa Rica Tourist Board. Travel the world with CNN.
Africa, a continent rich with natural resources, abounding in culture and diversity. A land with its future deeply rooted in its past. I'm Jim Clancy. Join me each week on a fascinating journey. Inside Africa, Saturdays on CNN.
It's the quiz show everyone's been talking about. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire has become a global TV phenomenon. After runaway successes in the UK and the United States, the program is now hooking audiences in Hong Kong. Andrew Stevens has the story.
What would you do with $1 million? That's a question Hong Kong viewers have been asking themselves since the debut of the international hit show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Masterminded in Britain, the show is now seen in almost 80 countries. In Hong Kong, thousands have swamped phone lines and lined up for hours outside the studio, even though the payoff, $1 million Hong Kong dollars, is much smaller than in the US or Britain.
The host is good. They've got great questions. It really reflects the standard of knowledge of the Hong Kong people. There isn't any other program like it here.
Millionaire's May debut has provided viewers with an alternative to the usual programming, which relies heavily on soap operas and costume dramas.
I guess people in Hong Kong are a little bit fed up with that kind of thing. It's not that they're not good. They're good. I enjoy them very much. But after a few years, I think we need to change. People need something that works their mind, not just other senses, but the brain.
Local academics are applauding the show's knowledge-based format, which has viewers dusting off their textbooks.
Well, I can see the good thing about it is that people start to looking at some of the history, some of the daily affairs, and all kinds of things surrounding them, and that's good.
Good, too, for the company that produces the show. Long regarded as an underdog, ATV has seen ad revenues jump 40 to 50% and ratings triple to record levels.
I think this show can last for a long time because every question is different, every contestant is different. People, just like karaoke, people, they can sing for their lifetime.
Although the Hong Kong version of the smash hit has yet to produce a $1 million winner, its success has rivals like TVB scrambling for a lifeline of their own. A version of The Weakest Link debuts in the coming weeks. Andrew Stevens, CNN, Hong Kong.
Here are the headlines on CNN. International diplomats are in Macedonia for the signing of a peace accord. Government troops and ethnic Albanian leaders are expected to sign the accord a few hours from now. But despite the planned signing, there was heavy fighting overnight, breaking a government-declared ceasefire. The country's president says he's skeptical ethnic Albanian insurgents will observe the peace accord. Shops and businesses are closed across the West Bank and Gaza. Palestinians are protesting the Israeli takeover of the so-called Orient House and other Palestinian offices in and around East Jerusalem. The move follows a weekend of violence. On Sunday, a 7-year-old Palestinian girl was shot dead in a gun battle in Hebron. And in northern Israel, a Palestinian suicide bomber killed himself and wounded 20 others. We'll have more world news in 30 minutes. I'm Anand Naidu, and you're with CNN.
Coming up on CNN.
Each week on Late Edition with Wolf Blitzer, go behind the issues with the people whose decisions shape the news. Call in and ask the questions you want answered by the people you want to hear from. They are leaders and policymakers, peace brokers and deal makers from Washington and around the globe. For the last word in political talk, it's Late Edition with Wolf Blitzer, only on CNN.
Uncommon, unpredictable, unconventional, business unusual. Profiles of the innovators changing the dynamic world of business. Business Unusual, only on CNN.
This is CNN. AT&T and Rolex
are proud to be associated with World Sport.
Coming up, from Olympic heartache to World Championship glory, no more tears for El Garouge. Liverpool's Sander Westerveld is kept busy, but could United end their losing ways in the Charity Shield? Don't just call him a clay court specialist. Guga's been going strong in the hard courts. You don't have to wear your Sunday's best. We'll keep it casual on World Sport.
Hi, welcome to the program. I'm Tom Steiner. Also ahead, it was a record-setting day for golfer Billy Mayfair at the Buick. But we start off with the end of the 8th World Athletics Championships in Canada. Well, Morocco's Hicham El Garouge put on a show for his many fans. The 1,500 meters world record holder wanted badly to erase the haunting memories of recent Olympic